Welcome to the Navigator Podcast.
Welcome to the Navigator Podcast. Today, joining me is Brad Dempsey, CEO of Solutions 360. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, Bradley. Nice to see you again.
Thanks. Yeah, this is getting to be a habit.
It is.
So today, let's talk change orders. Why is documenting change orders so important, both from a tool perspective, but also just from a company perspective?
Glad you brought that up. Imagine you have accounting records and you know how much money you started with and you know how much money you ended up with, but having no way of knowing how you got from point A to point B. I mean, realistically, change orders are the progression and the path of your project, and having change orders in place instills process, through the approval and creation of change orders, but it also creates history and tracking that you can use for analysis and control of your project while it's in progress.
Yeah, because a lot of projects, I mean, they go over budget and they said, when will we end? And they're like, well, when we're done, but we'll just spend in the meantime. So you don't have that lineage. And it's one of those, if you don't know where you're going, you don't know where you've been.
Right.
There's two types of change orders, contract or external change orders, and then internal change orders. What's the difference?
Yeah, we call them CCOs and ICOs. So
Okay.
we call them a customer change order because it's customer facing.
Got it.
And obviously, in its name, it's something presented to the customer. And it may be that it's not even a financial change. It could be an equipment change. It could be a scope change. But you do need some kind of documentation, and you need to understand if that change has any financial impact on the project. Now, the internal change order, on the other hand, is always priced at zero, because if there is any kind of change in price, it really needs to be customer facing.
Got it.
So internal change orders are used by typically engineering or the project manager to say, we didn't estimate enough labor, we missed a part, or maybe there's a placeholder for a part. When you're engineering a project, you might put in display of generic type, and then during the project, as you engineer it, as you do more work, you give it a specific part and model number.
Again, and that shows not only the lineage of the cost, but also the equipment as it moves through too. When I replace something, I have that serial number forever.
Right, very true. Yeah.
Who should be processing those? Or another, I guess we could answer it either way. Who should or who shouldn't? And then what's the problems when the right people aren't processing them?
Well, I mean, obviously, if it's customer facing, I think sales needs to get their hand in there at some point, because they should be aware of what's happening with the deal they sold. In some cases, it's a handshake between the project manager and I think the engineering team in most cases. Anytime you have equipment changes, obviously you need engineering sign off that they should be involved. Sometimes if it's just strictly a labor overage or underage, quite often the project manager can do that on their own. So of those three parties, they're the ones who really should be involved in that project management process.
How early should change orders start being documented and used?
Now that's an easy question. Day one, because how many deals have you seen where it is 100% engineered right out of the box? The first part of project initiation is normally we have to sit down and we have to review the scope of work and then do at least the first phase toward final engineering. Now, obviously, that can take place throughout the project, but there's always that burst of change that happens when you first start up the project, even before you put people on site. So definitely day one.
Well, and I also find that oftentimes in this industry, we tend to want to be nice to our customers. So we give away, and then all of a sudden we go, oh, now we have a change order. And the customer says, what? Why now? So again, that day one is key. It's part and parcel of the project. I always say that a project that has no change orders was poorly managed and basically somebody lied.
Right. I would agree.
How much revenue or profit or cost do you think most companies lose by not processing? Or I won't say companies lose cost, it's how much do they lose in profit and revenue by not processing change orders?
Well, this is really an educated guess. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to measure.
Right.
I mean, obviously you can measure before we did change orders and had the process and after and how much your business improved. My gut says, between 5 to 10% of margin at least is being lost if you're not managing this process properly.
Got it. And again, all those things that aren't CCOs automatically turn into ICOs, but we don't have that lineage or the ability to analyze.
Right.
how do you make it a continued discipline inside a company where, again, you brought up 3 roles, sales, engineering, PM, and oftentimes those roles don't talk well together. So how do you make it a continued discipline inside the company?
Well, I think, you've always talked about task-based management, and I think it's really important in the project to estimate and measure each task. And if you have a culture of review, so you have project status meetings, you review profitability, and one of the key things the change orders give you is a projection. Where is the project going to end up on our current trajectory? So if your team is meeting and analyzing and discussing those things on a regular basis, and you're looking at overages at a smaller detail level, like tasks, that's really how you become successful and mature with it.
Got it. Okay. And then that's what the most mature companies do then, is really analyze in detail along the way. So again, they understand that status, progress, and forecast.
And of course, the feedback loop, because once they do the analysis, that's got to go back into your estimating process so you can improve it.
And I think a lot of people do lessons learned, but never close the loop fully. So,
right.
Well, thanks for sharing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Nice seeing you again.